household. So she locked her up in a first floor room to teach him a lesson. Now, who can stop Billy? That room happened to be a one which was having a window that opens towards the road. So one beggar came again asking for something. So now he was helpless. What to do? Nothing is here. How can I help him? Suddenly he made a quick survey of the room and found out one trunk was open. He opened that up, and whatever was inside that, costly sarees of mother, this, that, simply took and threw away from the window. So no discrimination when it comes to charity. Such was his heart, even at the state of infancy of his life. So like this, Billy grew up to be a young lad, and he was called then Narendranath, or Naren in short. So he had a very all-round personality. He could sing well, he was good at sports, he had a ready wit, and his range of knowledge was vast. He had a rational frame of mind, and he loved to help people. So he was a natural leader. He was much sought after by the people of various accomplishments of his time. So Naren passed his BA examination from the General Assembly's institution, which is now called the Scottish Church College in Kolkata. So philosophy was the first priority with him, and Hasty, the principal of his college, was very highly impressed with Naren's philosophical insight. In fact, it was from Hasty that he first heard about Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who later happened to be his guru, his spiritual master. So as a student of philosophy, he had one question that was constantly troubling him, the answer to which he was not able to get. And that was there a God? Does really God exist? And if at that particular point of time, he was the leader of the Brahmo Samaj. So again, the same question, he shot directly at Sri Ramakrishna, "Sir, have you seen God?" And the answer that came out spontaneously from Sri Ramakrishna impressed Naren like anything. Sri Ramakrishna says, "Yes, I see him, as I see you here, only in a much intense sense. God can be realized," Sri Ramakrishna went on and said, "one can see to God, one can talk with God, as I am seeing and talking to you. But who cares? People shed torrents of tears for their wives, for their children, for their wealth, for their property. But who does so for the sake of God? If one weeps sincerely for God, he surely manifests himself." Naren was impressed at once. For the first time in his life, he had found a man who dared to say that he had seen God, that religion was a reality to be felt, to be sensed in an infinitely more intense way than we sense the world. As Naren heard these things from Sri Ramakrishna's lips, he could not but believe that he was not saying them like an ordinary preacher, but he was telling all these things from the depth of his heart, out of his personal experience. So Naren was convinced that Sri Ramakrishna was not an ordinary man. He was definitely an extraordinary man. He was the only man he had met so far who had completely mastered himself. Then he was also the best illustration of every religious truth he preached. Now Naren was such a person who would not surrender his freedom to anybody at any cost. He loved Sri Ramakrishna, he admired Sri Ramakrishna, but he never surrendered his independence of judgment to him. Interestingly, Sri Ramakrishna himself did not demand of it. So Naren tested his master every inch of his life, and then when he was fully convinced, then he accepted him gradually as his guru and then received his spiritual training under him. As times passed on, Sri Ramakrishna attained Mahasamadhi in August 1886 owing to throat cancer. So during his last days, a group of select young men had gathered around him and began to nurse him, at the same time receiving spiritual guidance from him. So Narain was the leader of this group, and Sri Ramakrishna had wanted that all that core group of young people who were nursing him should take to monastic life, and in fact had symbolically given them each one pair of gerua cloth, ochre cloth, which is a symbol of gone wandering. So somewhere during this phase of his wandering, he would keep different names. One name that he kept for some time was Swami Vividishananda. Then later on, at the request of the Raja of Khetri, Ajit Singh, he kept this name Vivekananda. So Vivekananda traveled extensively throughout India, mostly on foot. Now, while doing this Bharat Parikrama, he was shocked to see the conditions of the rural Indian people. People were ignorant, superstitious, half-starved, and victims of the tyranny that was being created by the caste discrimination. If this shocked him, the callousness of the so-called educated upper classes shocked him still more. In the course of his travels, he met various princes who invited him to stay with them as their guests. He also met city-based members of the intelligentsia, lawyers, teachers, journalists, and government officials. He appealed to one and all to do something for the masses, but no one seemed to pay any heed to him. Because after all, what was he then? He was just an wandering monk. And at that time, there were hundreds of wandering monks. So people, though they respected his intellect, his charisma, but they were not ready to yield to what he was suggesting. So no one seemed to pay any heed to him, except the Maharaja of Mysore, the Maharaja of Khetri, and a few young men of Madras, present-day Chennai. So traversing the whole length and breadth of India, having the first-hand experience of the common masses, Swami Vivekananda reached the last bit of Indian soil on the peninsular India at Kanyakumari. It is the southernmost tip of India, at the confluence of the Bay of Bengal, the Indian Ocean, and the Arabian Sea. But the rock, he swam across and reached that rock. This incident happened in the last week of December 1892. So having reached that rock, Swami Vivekananda sat in deep meditation. The object of this meditation was not any God, not any Atman or Paramatman, not any supernatural thing. He was too much possessed of the pitiable conditions of the common masses that he meditated on India. His object of meditation solely was India, the glorious past of India, when India was in the peak of her glory. He meditated on the reasons of the downfall of the present-day India of that time, and he also meditated on how once again India could bounce back to its old glory and become Jagat Guru once more. He came to the conclusion that the chief cause of India's downfall was the neglect of masses. He impressed on everybody the need to mobilize the masses. A few educated men and women could not solve the problems of the country. The mass power had to be harnessed to the task. He wanted the masses to be empowered by the right type of education. As divine providence would have it, in the course of his wandering, Vivekananda arrived in Madras, that is present-day Chennai, where young people gathered around him, drawn by his bright looks and inspiring talks. They heard somewhere that some parliament of religions was going to be happening in Chicago in the near future. So they thought perhaps Vivekananda would be a very fit candidate because he is so bright, he speaks good English, and he has charming looks. So he can present the cause of Indian religion there in a very profound way. So they started collecting funds, and then they requested Swamiji, we want that you should represent India at the Parliament of Religions. Now Swamiji was initially reluctant, but later on he felt that some good might come out of his visit to the West. For if he could make some impression there, his people back at home, who always judge a thing to be good or bad, depending upon what the Western critics thought of it, would then give him a respectable hearing. Now this is a typical slavish mentality which we have. Anybody great in India, till there is a stamp of it by some Western people, we will not accept it. If some Western press, Western media says, this man is great, now he is great. But till then, we won't accept the greatness if in India, an Indian says that he is great. Anyway, this slavish mentality is there because we have so many centuries being ruled by foreign rulers. So hopefully, slowly it goes away. So then Swami Vivekananda embarked on his journey to America, primarily to raise some funds for his impoverished countrymen and also to participate in the Parliament of Religions. Now, he did not make any preparations of what is happening in America. Those days, there was no Google, no internet. When the Parliament is beginning, he did not know. When was the last date of enrollment? He did not know. Simply, he went and landed there. Then he found that first of all, a prerequisite to participate in the Parliament of Religions as a delegate is that one required some proper credentials from a bona fide organization, somewhat like a certificate. He did not have anything of that sort, neither had he any introduction letter. But again, by divine providence, he came to be acquainted with one Professor John Henry Wright of the Harvard University, who was instantly impressed with Swamiji after their very first meeting. Now, Professor Wright was so much impressed with his learning and wisdom that he took upon himself to somehow admit Swamiji into the Parliament. So he told Swamiji, well, why don't you go to the Parliament? I will make arrangements for you. Then Swamiji told Professor Wright, yeah, I'm also interested, but I don't have any credentials. Then Professor Wright, what he told to Swamiji is remarkable. He says, to ask you, Swami, for your credentials is like asking the sun to state its right to ask you, Swami, for your credentials is like asking the sun to state its right to shine. Not only that, he wrote a beautiful letter to the chairman of the committee of the selection of delegates, who happened to be his friend, introducing Vivekananda as, here is a man who is more learned than all our learned professors put together. Mark the words. Here is a man who is more learned than all our learned professors put together. So with this mighty introduction, Swami Vivekananda was enrolled as a speaker at the Parliament. So when the Parliament of Religions began on the 11th of September 1893, at the inaugural session, after the chairman announced his name, Swamiji mentally bowed down to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, seeking her blessings, and then he rose to speak. Barely had he greeted the audience with these words, sisters and brothers of America, the whole audience was thrilled and immediately burst out into a storm of applause. They clapped their hands again and again and would not stop. Imagine 7,000 people clapping their hands constantly for a few minutes. There was a deafening sound. Swamiji had to wait for some time so that silence could be restored and he could continue his speech. So, what Swamiji spoke in the inaugural session of the Parliament of Religions is very much relevant in the contemporary world today. He said, sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant fanaticism have long possessed this beautiful earth. They have filled the earth with violence, drenched it often and often with human blood, destroyed civilizations, and sent the whole nations into despair. Had it not been for these horrible demons, human society would have been far more advanced than it is now. Then he quoted a few lines from the Shiva Mohimna Stotram, saying, Ruchinam Vaichitrat Drijukutilinā Napathajusham Nrinameka Gamyastamasi Poyashamarnavaiva. As the different streams, having their sources at different places, yet all mingle their water in the sea. So, O Lord, the different paths which men take through different tendencies, various though they appear, crooked or straight, all lead to Thee. Now, apart from the inaugural session, which was actually the response to the welcome, Swamiji addressed the Parliament on 5 more occasions. On one such occasion, he read out his paper on Hinduism, which is a very classic piece of work. I would request you to go through it. That gives the different aspects of Hinduism in one single matter. So his paper on Hinduism, that was very famous then, and that was the only lecture which he prepared, which he had written notes of. All other talks that he gave were all extempore. So all his addresses were well appreciated by the entire audience. In his final address, that is address at the final session, that is when all other representatives have presented their point of view. After that, finally when Swamiji addressed the Parliament, he said that much has been said of the common grounds of religious unity. I am not going just now to venture my own theory. But if anyone here hopes that this unity will come by the triumph of any one of the religions and the destruction of others, to him I say, brother, yours is an impossible hope. Do I wish that the Christians should become Hindus? God forbid. Do I wish that the Hindus or Muslims should become Christians? God forbid. The seed is put in the ground, and the air, water, and earth are placed around it. Does the seed become the air, the water, or the earth? No, it grows into a plant. It assimilates the air, water, and earth, converts them into a plant substance, and grows into a plant. Similar is the case with religion. A Hindu is not to become a Muslim or a Christian. Neither a Christian is to become a Hindu or a Muslim. But each must assimilate the spirit of others and yet preserve his own individuality and grow according to his own law of growth. If the Parliament of Religions has shown anything to the world, it is this. It has proved to the world that holiness, purity, and charity are not the exclusive possessions of any church in the world, and that every system has produced men and women of the most exalted character. In the face of this evidence, if anybody dreams of the exclusive survival of his own religion and the destruction of others, I pity him from the bottom of my heart and point out to him that very soon upon the banner of every religion will be written, in spite of resistance, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension. So these were the words that captivated the entire audience in Chicago, and Swami Vivekananda became a figure with whom everybody tried to jostle with people just to get near him, have a photo with him. The other day, till the Parliament started, nobody even recognized him. Just after the Parliament, he became so famous that people were considering themselves fortunate, even they were able to get near him. So this message of harmony of religions, which Swami Vivekananda gave at the Parliament of Religions is the panacea of the problem which we face here in India as well as in the entire global scenario. Presently, as it were, it seems that the entire world is sitting in a tip of a volcano. A small trigger can arise a situation that may lead to havoc. So much of killings in the name of religions, in the name of fanaticism is going on that anytime we cannot be virtually sure that we may live the next day to see. It's rather very unfortunate that religion, which is supposed to be a subtle force to elevate human beings from the level of humanity to the level of dignity, is being misconstrued, misused for such flimsy purposes. So the message of Swami Vivekananda will go a long way in producing a situation, creating a scenario by which the world can become a safe place to live in. Well, the message of Swami Vivekananda is such that I can go on and on and on, but owing to paucity of time, I would like to conclude here. But before that, I would like to share some inspiring quotations of Swamiji with the young people, those who are present here, because Swami Vivekananda said that my faith is in the younger generation. Men, these are wanted. Everything else will be ready. But strong, vigorous, believing young man, sincere to the backbone are wanted. 100 such and the world becomes revolutionized, he used to say. So I conclude with these few quotations of Swami Vivekananda, which I wish you all take home as takeaway message from today's National Youth Day. Swamiji said, "The longest night seems to be passing away. The source of trouble seems to be coming to an end at last. The seeming corpse appears to be awakening, and a voice is coming unto us, gentle, firm, and yet unmistakable in its utterances, and is gaining volume as the days pass by. India, this motherland of ours, is rising from a deep, long sleep. Never is she going to sleep anymore. No outward power can hold her back anymore, for the infinite giant is rising from a deep, long sleep. Be bold, be strong, take the entire responsibilities on your own shoulders, and know that you are the creator of your own destiny. Arise, awake, wake up yourselves and awaken others to achieve the consummation of human life before you all pass off. Uttishtata, Jagrata, Prapyavaran, Nipodhata. Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Thank you all. Namaskar.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद महाराज। महाराज जी के द्वारा दिया हुआ मार्गदर्शन हमें निश्चित ही आचरण पूर्वक होगा। स्वामी विवेकानंद जी के उपदेश हमें बहुत ही स्फूर्तिदायक साबित होते हैं। स्वामी जी कहते हैं कि मैंने जापान में सुना है कि बालिकाओं का यह विश्वास है कि यदि उनकी गुड़ियों को अगर हृदय से प्यार किया जाए तो वह जीवित हो उठेंगी। जापानी बालिका अपनी गुड़ियों को कभी नहीं तोड़ती। स्वामी जी कहते हैं कि मेरा भी यह विश्वास है कि यदि हतश्री, अभागी, निर्बुद्धि, पददलित भारतवासियों को अगर हृदय से प्यार किया जाए तो भारत पुनः जागृत हो उठेगा। भारत तभी जागेगा जब विशाल हृदय वाले सैकड़ों स्त्री पुरुष भारतवासियों के कल्याण के लिए सचेष्ट होंगे। स्वामी जी कहते हैं कि देशभक्त बनो। जिस देश ने अतीत में तुम्हारे लिए इतने बड़े बड़े काम किए उसे प्राणों से भी प्यारा समझो। स्वामी जी कहते हैं कि जो भरा नहीं है भावों में जिसमें बहती रसधार नहीं, कि जो भरा नहीं है भावों में जिसमें बहती रसधार नहीं, और वह हृदय नहीं वह पत्थर है कि जिसमें स्वदेश का प्यार नहीं। स्वामी जी का देश प्रेम सचमुच ही बहुत ही अवर्णनीय है, जिसको शब्दों में व्यक्त नहीं किया जा सकता। स्वामी जी अपने में पूरा भारत महसूस करते थे। मैं स्वामी जी के चरणों में नतमस्तक होते हुए स्वामी जी के द्वारा दिया हुआ स्वदेश मंत्र यहाँ पर उच्चारण करने हेतु विवेकानंद विद्यार्थी भवन के छात्र एवं मेरे सहपाठी श्री केशव भगत को मंच पर आमंत्रित करता हूँ।
भारत के युवाओं को आह्वान करते हुए स्वामी विवेकानंद कहते हैं, ये भारत, तुम मत भूलना कि तुम्हारे स्त्रियों का आदर्श सीता, सावित्री, दमयंती है। मत भूलना कि तुम्हारे उपास्य सर्वत्यागी उमानाथ शंकर है। मत भूलना कि तुम्हारा विवाह, तुम्हारा धन और तुम्हारा जीवन इंद्रिय सुख के लिए, अपने व्यक्तिगत सुख के लिए नहीं है। मत भूलना कि तुम जन्म से ही माता के लिए बलि स्वरूप रखे गए हो। मत भूलना कि तुम्हारा समाज उस विराट महामाया की छाया मात्र है। मत भूलना कि नीच, अज्ञानी, दरिद्र, चमार और मैतर तुम्हारे रक्त और तुम्हारे भाई है। ये वीर, साहस का आश्रय लो और गर्व से कहो कि मैं भारतवासी हूँ। प्रत्येक भारतवासी मेरा भाई है। और भाई बोलो कि अज्ञानी भारतवासी, निर्धन भारतवासी, ब्राह्मण भारतवासी, चांडाल भारतवासी सब मेरे भाई है। और तुम भी कटी मात्रा में वस्त्र लपेटकर गर्व से पुकार कर कहो कि भारतवासी मेरा भाई है, भारतवासी मेरा प्राण है, भारत की देवी देवता मेरे ईश्वर है, भारत की देवी देवता मेरे ईश्वर है, भारत का समाज मेरा पालना, मेरे यौवन का उपवन और मेरे वार्धक्य की वाराणसी है। बोलो कि भारत की मिट्टी मेरा स्वर्ग है, भारत के कल्याण में मेरा कल्याण है। और रात दिन कहते रहो कि हे गौरीनाथ, हे जगदम्बे, मुझे मनुष्यत्व दो। माँ, मेरी दुर्बलता और मेरी कापुरुषता दूर कर दो, मुझे मनुष्य बनाओ। माँ, मुझे मनुष्य बनाओ। माँ, मुझे मनुष्य बनाओ। धन्यवाद।
आज के इस युवा दिवस के कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाते हुए मैं मंच पर आसीत श्रीमद स्वामी ब्रह्मस्थानंद महाराज, अध्यक्ष रामकृष्ण मठ, इनसे निवेदन करता हूँ कि वो हमें अपने आशीर्वचनों से लाभान्वित करें तथा हमें मार्गदर्शन करें।
ओम स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। तं देशिकेन्द्रं परमं पवित्रं विश्वस्य पालं मधुरं यतीन्द्रं हितायनीनां नरमूर्तिमन्तं विवेकानन्दमहं नमामि। सभी भक्तगण, उनको मैं सादर प्रणाम करता हूँ और स्वामी विवेकानंद के बारे में जो स्वामी कीर्तिपदानंद ने जो उनकी लाइफ और उसने किया है, उसके लिए मैं उसको धन्यवाद देता हूँ। एक बात मैं आपसे सबको बता रहा हूँ, उपनिषद में कहा है युवा स्यात् युवाध्याय कहा, युवा ये जो है तो जो युवा है वही ये अध्ययन करने के काबिल है। और दूसरी बात ये है कि जो करना है वही ये करना चाहिए। और जैसे केशव ने कहा कि ये कभी भी सबके जीवन में जो भगवान है उसी को देखने का प्रयत्न करना चाहिए। जीवन में क्या आवश्यक है यह समझना चाहिए। और जो हमें करना है वो प्रत्येक के हृदय में जो भगवान है उसी को देखना चाहिए। दूसरी बात यह है कि जीवन में हम क्या करना चाहिए, तो श्री राम कृष्ण कहते हैं भगवान का नाम लो। भगवान का नाम लेने से क्या होता है, हमारा जो चित्त है, हमारा जो हृदय है वो शुद्ध हो जाता है। और दूसरी बात यह है कि जीवन में ये है, और दूसरी बात स्वामी शिवानंद महाराज महापुरुष ने कहा है, ओम ही श्री राम कृष्ण का स्वरूप है, इसलिए ओम का जप करो। सवेरे मैं ओम का जप 108 बार करता हूँ, और वही जो है वो श्री राम कृष्ण का स्वरूप है, ऐसा महापुरुष महाराज कहते हैं। वास्तविक हमारे सबके लिए जो है वह एकमात्र भगवान श्री राम कृष्ण जो ये हैं अभी ऊपर जो बैठे हुए हैं और सबके सब आश्रम में हैं और सबके हृदय में हैं, उनके जीवन में हमारे शत शत प्रणाम करना चाहिए। जीवन में हमारा जो कर्तव्य है वह अवश्य करना चाहिए, और उसके साथ साथ भगवान का नाम भी लेना चाहिए। जीवन सबके लिए जीवन सबके लिए सरीखा नहीं है, वो सब जानते हैं। फिर भी जो हमारे हृदय में जो भगवान बैठे हुए हैं वह समान रूप से सबके लिए है, और जो परमात्मा है उसके जो अंश है, हम सारे उस परमात्मा के अंश हैं। और यह ध्यान में रखते हुए हमने अपना जीवन यापन करना चाहिए। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम तत्सत। श्री राम कृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद महाराज। महाराज ने हमें बताया कि हम ईश्वर के सिर्फ अंश मात्र है, कि वह यंत्री है, हम यंत्र है। इसलिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद महाराज कि आपने हमें अपने आशीर्वचनों से लाभान्वित किया तथा हमें मार्गदर्शन किया। इसी के लिए आपके बहुत बहुत आभारी हैं। अब मैं विवेकानंद विद्यार्थी भवन के छात्रों से निवेदन करता हूँ कि वे पुनः मंच पर आकर अपना समूह गीत हम सभी के समक्ष प्रस्तुत करें।
शौर्यदाओ वीर्यदाओ शौर्यदाओ वीर्यदाओ नवीन जीवन दिव्य चेतन
पुनः एक बार जोरदार तालियों के साथ विवेकानंद विद्यार्थी भवन के छात्रों का अभिनंदन कीजिए। दोस्तों, संभव की सीमा जानने का केवल एक ही तरीका है, असंभव से भी आगे निकल जाना। ऐसा संदेश देने वाले और अपनी मातृभूमि पर जान से भी ज़्यादा प्यार करने वाले युवाओं के प्रेरणा स्थान स्वामी विवेकानंद का जीवन तथा संदेश, स्वामी विवेकानंद के अनुसार शिक्षा, इस विषय पर हमने चिंतन किया। कार्यक्रम की इस श्रृंखला को आगे बढ़ाते बढ़ाते हम अब कार्यक्रम की अंतिम एवं महत्वपूर्ण चरण की ओर पहुंच चुके हैं, जो कि है आभार प्रदर्शन। आज के इस राष्ट्रीय युवा दिवस के कार्यक्रम के आभार प्रदर्शन करने हेतु विवेकानंद विद्यार्थी भवन के छात्र श्री राजकुमार कंदीकुरवार को मैं मंच पर आमंत्रित करता हूँ और पुनः एक बार आप सभी को राष्ट्रीय युवा दिवस की शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
एक निमंत्रण देने के लिए मैं यहाँ खड़ा हूँ। परसों 14 तारीख को स्वामी विवेकानंद की जयंती है। आप सभी को मैं निमंत्रण देता हूँ। नमस्कार।
खुशियों भरी इस महफिल में आज अपनेपन सा एहसास हुआ। खुशियों भरी इस महफिल में आज अपनेपन का एहसास हुआ है। आप सबकी गरिमामय उपस्थिति पाकर यह कार्यक्रम कुछ खास हुआ है। आज 12 जनवरी 2023 राष्ट्रीय युवा दिन के इस शुभ अवसर पर हम सब यहाँ एकत्रित हुए हैं। मैं राजकुमार दीपक कंदीकुरवार, राष्ट्रीय विवेकानंद छात्र विवेकानंद विद्यार्थी भवन आभार प्रदर्शन करने हेतु सादर आमंत्रित हूँ। सर्वप्रथम आज के कार्यक्रम के अध्यक्ष पूजनीय स्वामी ब्रह्मस्थानंद जी महाराज, अध्यक्ष रामकृष्ण मठ नागपुर, जिन्होंने अपने आशीर्वचनों से हमें लाभान्वित किया, इसलिए मैं उनका तहे दिल से आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। तथापि आगे भी हम मार्गदर्शन करते रहेंगे, ऐसी आशा व्यक्त करता हूँ। साथ ही साथ आज के कार्यक्रम के प्रमुख अतिथि स्वामी कीर्ति प्रधानंद जी महाराज, रामकृष्ण मिशन विवेकानंद शिक्षा एवं अनुसंधान संस्थान बेल्लूर मठ, जिन्होंने स्वामी विवेकानंद जी का जीवन और संदेश इस विषय पर अपने विचार प्रकट किए, इसलिए मैं उनका तहे दिल से आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ तथा वे हमें ऐसे ही मार्गदर्शन करते रहेंगे, ऐसी आशा व्यक्त करता हूँ। जिन्होंने अपने सुमधुर स्वर से संपूर्ण अखंडानंद सभागृह प्रफुल्लित किया एवं हम सबका मन जीता एवं सबको मंत्रमुक्त किए, ऐसे हमारे विवेकानंद विद्यार्थी भवन के छात्र और उनके मार्गदर्शक श्री एल्पाजी काका और डोरले काका, इनका भी मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। आज के कार्यक्रम के चित्रीकरण और आज के कार्यक्रम के साउंड सिस्टम तथा माइक अरेंजमेंट जिन्होंने संभाला, वैसे हमारे श्री डोले काका और बंटी भैया और पीयूष भैया, इनका भी मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। और वे इसी तरह आगे भी हमें आने वाले कार्यक्रम में सहकार्य करते रहेंगे, ऐसी आशा व्यक्त करता हूँ। जिनके मार्गदर्शन के बिना यह कार्यक्रम असंभव था, ऐसे हमारे विवेकानंद विद्यार्थी भवन के भवन पालक स्वामी महावलानंद जी महाराज, इनको और अन्य साधुगण एवं ब्रह्मचारीगण, इनके प्रति आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। कार्यक्रम के प्रमुख कड़ी जिनके बिना यह कार्यक्रम सफल न हो पाता, ऐसे हमारे श्रोतागण, उनको मैं तहे दिल से धन्यवाद अर्पित करता हूँ। साथ ही साथ जिन्होंने राष्ट्रीय युवा दिन का यह कार्यक्रम सफल बनाया, ऐसे हमारे विवेकानंद विद्यार्थी भवन के सभी छात्रों का आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ तथा अध्यक्ष की अनुमति से यह राष्ट्रीय युवा दिन का कार्यक्रम यहीं पे संपन्न होता है, इसे जाहिर करता हूँ। धन्यवाद।